You're listening to Big World Network.
The Adventures of Phineas Frakture, Chaos Theory, Season 9, Episode 1. Written by Joseph Gatch, read by Michael Young. The rain came down in a steady, heavy, monotonous drizzle that enveloped the secluded Massachusetts seaside town in its wet embrace. The area stank of rot and mold, a tribute to the decay that plagued this once thriving community. Houses and shops now sat abandoned, boarded up and collapsing in upon themselves, the weight of the never-ending rain pummeling them back into the ground, trying to reclaim its territory and telling the remaining occupants to leave. Outside one of these doomed tenements, during the middle of the night, two figures sat huddled in the underbrush, garbed in raincoats and wide-brimmed hats, trying to make the most of their situation. Water pooled around their boots as they sank deeper into the mud with every minute they remained at their vigil.
"I tell you, this is the worst part of the job, Chief,"
Roland McAvoy stated, as he shifted uncomfortably. A tree frog barked close to his ear, causing him to brush his hand through the thicket in hopes of silencing the resident.
"What's that?"
the man known as the Chief answered.
"Sitting out here in the rain, in this god-forsaken mud-hole, or being hip-deep in muck that smells like your Uncle Johnny's unwashed socks? This. We're stuck out here watching a house that, for all we know, is completely empty, freezing our bahookies off, while the bad guys are probably laughing themselves silly, sitting in some warm domicile miles away. Really, Chief, what are we doing here?"
"We're keeping the country safe. Here's what we're doing. That's what you signed up for, wasn't it? We take the fight to wherever it needs to be taken to. The U.S. Secret Service can't protect the president and the people of this great country if we're holed up in some office in Washington, can we? Someone's got to do the dirty work, and until they create some other department to do that work for us, it's up to us to come out to these crap holes and see that the job gets done. So, if you want a nice desk job, I'd be happy to have you transferred to the IRS, where you can push pencils all day and risk paper cuts. Now, if you're through whining, take a look at those binoculars of yours and tell me if you see anything."
Yeah, Chief, I'm just saying. Hey, there is someone in there. I just saw movement."
McAvoy handed the glasses over to the Chief and picked up a shuttered lantern from the ground. The Chief, in the meantime, trained the glasses on the building and found a clear view of one of the windows. Inside, a shadowy figure moved lazily around in one of the rooms.
"All right. I'm tired of sitting out here. Signal the others and let's take this bastard out."
McAvoy held the lantern high and opened and closed the shutter 3 times. A moment later, it was answered by 3 flashes from the other side of the building, and then 3 more by a third team.
"We're ready, Chief,"
announced McAvoy as he drew out his Colt Peacemaker. Checking his own weapon, the Chief stood up, his knees creaking from the dampness, and waved the teams forward. 3 teams of 2 converged upon the building, weapons drawn and itching for action. Doors in the front and back were quietly opened, while the third team went in through a bulkhead leading down into the basement. The Chief and McAvoy entered through the front door. The lantern that they carried was now fully open to provide light in the pitch-black building. They could hear the second team moving through the back, and then the scurrying of Team 3 below. Cautiously, the Chief crept through what was once a front office for a shipping company. A large marlin hung over an interior doorway, and while the floor was littered with rubbish and old invoices. The floor creaked as he took a step, causing him to stop suddenly and take a look around, hoping that he hadn't given their presence away. When there was no other sound, he sighed in relief and put weight back onto his foot as he took a step forward. The rotted planking suddenly groaned even more, and with a flash of realization, the Chief's leg broke through the floor. "Son of a..." the Chief exclaimed without thinking. He climbed up instantly, and McAvoy hurried to pull his boss from the hole in the floor. Shouts from above caused them to halt their progress. Then several gunshots rang out in the silence, 12 in all. Team 2 had unloaded their entire arsenal. There was a pause as they suspected that the other men were reloading, followed by one more shot, and then the screams of panic. Team 3 burst through the door leading to the cellar, and hesitated when they saw the chief in his predicament. "Go! Go! They're upstairs! Don't wait for us!" the chief yelled. A crash of broken glass from above, followed by more screams, spurred the agents on. As McAvoy finished pulling the chief from the floor, they could hear more shots, followed by the bellowing of something inhuman. A figure came hurtling down the stairs and crumpled in a heap at the bottom. Finnegan, one of Team 3. "Why would you die?" a voice shouted from above. This was followed by 6 more shots from a pistol. Heavy footfalls and creaking floorboards punctuated the silence that followed. Steeling themselves, the chief and McAvoy charged upstairs to find Jones, the second member of Team 3, being hefted in the air by... they had no idea what. In the lantern light, a large, brutish figure with slimy green skin held Jones above its head. The creature turned at the sound of the last pair of agents ascending the stairs, and with a roar from its wide lips, it tossed Jones's prone body toward them. Not sure whether he was alive or dead, the chief and McAvoy tried to catch the human missile in an attempt to save him from harm. The weight of the man was too much for them to bear, however, and all 3 went tumbling down the staircase, landing on top of the already dead Finnegan. The beast stomped over to the top of the staircase and regarded the heap of men at the bottom. Its face almost resembled a fish. Its ears were actually fin-like protrusions, and its eyes bugged out of its head, having no eyelids. Several bullet holes peppered its upper torso. The agents had obviously hit their target, true to their training, though in this case it seemed to do no good. Slowly the beast descended the staircase, as if savoring the last moments before its kill. The chief fumbled for his pistol, dropping during the fall and now buried under their bodies. McAvoy was unconscious. A large gash on his forehead indicated that he had not fallen as gracefully as the chief. As the beast reached the halfway mark of the staircase, the chief's hand wrapped around the grip of his pistol. He steadied his arm on top of McAvoy's back, aimed, and let off a round directly between the beast's eyes. The creature's head snapped backwards as a spray of blue-green blood spurted from the wound. Its limbs dropped as it began to sway, and seeing what was about to transpire, the chief pushed McAvoy's and Jones's bodies with all his strength, rolling them off of the landing. The beast dropped forward and slid down the stairs, coming to a dead stop at the bottom. McAvoy groaned and put a hand to his bleeding forehead. "Did you have to fire that thing so close, Chief?" he asked. "Gave me a headache." "You're welcome," the chief replied as he stood up. "When is the agency going to start teaching you guys that if you want to kill something, shoot it in its damn head? Is Jones alive?" McAvoy checked the other man's pulse, and then wiggled his head. "Neck's broken. We should have dodged him. We didn't know. Come on, let's see what this thing was guarding." The remaining 2 agents skirted the downed fishman and ascended the stairs once more. Setting the lanterns around the room to throw enough light in the area, they began rummaging around, looking for any clues as to what their quarry might have been up to. The room looked as if it were a workspace. Tables were strewn around, probably displaced by the creature lurking about. There were chairs indicating that more than one person had inhabited the building, and food had been left half-eaten. Maps of different countries and cities lined the walls, with pins stuck in various locations. "There's no one else here, Chief," McAvoy announced after checking the last of the rooms on the floor. "If there were anyone else here, they hightailed it out before we got here. It looks like they cleaned this place out in a hurry. You find something?" The chief was slouched over a large drawing table that was covered with stacks of blueprints and notes. "More than we thought we would," he replied. "My God, what is this?" "What?" McAvoy replied as he moved over to the table. "We need to wire the president immediately. Get down to the post office and get a telegram sent off." "All right, but what do I tell him?" The chief looked at the blueprints, and then down to the dead fish man at the bottom of the stairs. Tell him it's worse than we thought. Tell him that Pandora has opened the box.
You're listening to Big World Network.